Welcome back to the Denver Sports Betting Show, you guys. I'm your host, Taylor Sadusky. This segment is in partnership with our guys over at Fandom Nation, not only giving you the best insight to all the leagues that you can imagine, but building communities and also showcasing it back to you guys, the fan. And a new week, a new special guest in the studio with me. We have Oliver Hayes. He is a beat reporter for Buff Stampede, covering the CU basketball team, but he also has his nose on the football team too as well. There's so much popping off with that. So happy to have you in studio. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
No, of course, definitely. Amazing to have you on set too as well. Such great work. So make sure to go ahead and follow him once we get right into it. But before we get started, we have to shout out our first amazing and locally trusted sponsor, Gardner Roofing. Are you looking for a roofer you can trust? Gardner Roofing is Colorado's expert roofing team, family owned and proudly serving the community since 1998. At Gardner Roofing, they don't just build roofs, they build relationships with unmatched craftsmanship, honest pricing, and a team that treats you just like family. It's really no wonder why the customers keep coming back and bringing their friends. So if your roof needs some love or you just want some expert advice you can trust, make sure to visit them at gardnerroofing.com or give them a call today at 303-332-6224. And our family has your family covered. So with that being said, last week we checked in with a student athlete and his path, how he switched from student athlete at the D1 level to now being a junior Olympian to now owning a business too as well. I'm sure you're familiar with Goonsville Clothing, all that kind of good stuff. So he's pretty locally owned and operated out here in the Colorado region too as well. But we are switching gears and checking back in with the football team. You know, we have Coach Prime gearing up the Buffs this season. They're back in camp, and then NFL Buffs too as well, also on the season grid. So let's get right into it. So just off the bat, Oliver, what have you seen from this team, just covering it, watching it, being a part of the community? Like, what are the biggest changes that have happened since losing Shedeur and Travis in the offseason, would you say?
I feel like the big thing is just trying to understand the whole media attention shift. Of course, with Travis and Shedeur having one of the best quarterbacks and obviously a Heisman favorite and then eventual Heisman winner, the eyes were all on Colorado. And of course, there's still quite a bit of attention if everyone wants to see what Coach Prime is going to do in the era after those guys. But there hasn't been the same amount of buzz. I feel like, you know, with College Football 25, we saw Travis Hunter on the cover. Now CU's nowhere to be seen unless it was a little Nebraska chirp. And so it's been weird just not seeing him have as much clout. And I really think, you know, we'll get into it later, seeing as far as, you know, how they've, you know, ranked in FPI and things like that. But I really, I'll be excited to kind of see them be a little bit of an underdog. I know that's kind of what they've been, you know, with people running them out and whatnot. But let's see if they can do some things, kind of being under the radar a little bit.
And you wear so many hats, like with this program too, not only covering as a reporter, but you've been to this school, like you've been a native to this state. So like you've seen it grow, shift, change more than anything too. So I'm sure it's like on an upscale right now, but you've seen it at its lowest lows too as well, just a couple years back. So with that being said too, what are the biggest changes that you've seen? So we know quarterbacks have changed too. Linebacker rooms are massively different. Defensive line coaches, just what is the focus on, and like what grabs does Coach Prime and his staff need in the offseason? Would you say that is going to bring it to like the full potential?
I mean, I think the big thing is, I don't know, the running. I'll start with the negatives first. I feel like the running game, of course, with Isaiah Auguste, him departing is one of the big things that people are looking at. People are a little bit worried about the line and some of the people that were brought in. But, you know, Zy Chrysler, I know we're getting into the transfers later. He's a guy from Illinois that stands out to me. I'm excited to see what he does. But Dallin Hayden, he's returning. He had you know, an NFL father, and I know he dealt with injuries last year, but I think he could do something exciting. And I think the run game has been something that's been so harped on the past few years under Coach Prime, and with either Julian Lewis or Ken Salter taking over at the quarterback position. I know they'll probably keep that pro style, but I know the run game will probably have to be a little bit more of a crutch without having Shedeur and Travis and, you know, even, you know, LaJohntay and some of those other, you know, guys that went on to be in the NFL. I think, you know, seeing how this run game progresses, even with some of these moves that may be underwhelming at the moment, will be the big thing that I've been keeping an eye on.
110% too. Again, too, switching out the running game coach too from Gary Harrell out to Marshall Falk. I mean, night and day.
Yeah,
that's insane too as well. He's such a big presence for this run game. You said mentioning leading rusher last year, Isaiah Auguste was out on the outs too as well. So it'll be huge to see what the run game is without Shedeur's arm and all that kind of good stuff too as well, and the wide receiver room that we had last year. So just with that being said too, what transfers do you see just stepping up and making a huge impact that are like, oh wow, if like not even dependent on stars, but like who has like really shown up and shown out even past the spring game, just like in little blurbs that you've seen? Yeah,
I mentioned Zy Chrysler. I think he'll, out of all the offensive linemen that have been recruited, I think he'll be the big guy. I mean, he is a big guy. All those dudes in the trenches are. I think out of the ones I've seen, I think he'll be the most impressive. But of course, Sincere Brown, he's his numbers are fantastic coming from Campbell. I mean, over 60 catches, over 1,000 yards, double digits touchdowns, and he's 6'5". I
was gonna say his size.
Huge. Yeah. So having his frame at the wideout position, I think, is very exciting, and especially if you're Kane Salter or Juju Lewis, trying to win this starting position and knowing that you have that guy to throw to. So I'm looking out for him. I'm looking out for Zy Chrysler, like I said, and then I think the big thing for me is Martavius French. I know at the linebacker position, Colorado they lost some of the transfer portal. That was the big area that they're trying to look for. And I know French at UTSA didn't have the biggest numbers. He only had like 1 sack last year, if I remember. Only had a bunch of tackles, but no interceptions or anything like that. But I think if he comes in being one of the older guys, even for the transfer class, I think he could come in and make a name for himself.
Completely agree with that too. As like you said, you have freshmen too, like Julian Lewis, Carday Smith coming in hoping to make that presence known. But you also have like those established guys too as well, transferring in, trying to earn that spot and really just make an impact in the Big 12 too as well. So with that being said, too, there's a new formula that Coach Prime is adjusting to. He doesn't have his son. He doesn't have Travis, doesn't have, all that kind of weaponry that he's had for years and years and years, even beyond like the private school level in high school. So with that being said, how is he adjusting his formula to make it more of like an advantage to really just take over the Pac-12 without his weapons he's used to, in a sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been kind of interesting because, like I said earlier, we haven't seen this same amount of media attention. Of course, there's still Colorado journalists in the space that are still producing the same amount of content. But with Shedeur and Travis, we knew kind of what everything was going to look like, especially after that first year. And so with everything changing so much, I really think that with how much Dion has preached, making good young men and trying to get guys to the next level, that they'll really try and follow a pro style, and it'll be interesting at the quarterback position. I know that's something that we'll keep going back to probably throughout this episode or this segment, but I think he'll ride that pro style, and if it's Juju Lewis, that's something that I think is a big question mark. But if it's Salter, I think that'll be a lot more. There'll be a lot more consistency if it's Salter being the older guy of the two.
Completely agree too as well. Who is going to get those reps in that start too as well. But let's go ahead and take a quick break real quick here and introduce our next sponsor, Niko Stones. One of my personal favorite accessories is jewelry. No better way to finish an outfit. And with that being said, too, I see you have some jewelry game, too, as well. You got to love it. A little outfit topper. But with that being said, just got to listen and understand that you have to elevate your outfit in the best way possible. And no better way to do that than Niko Stones. They design timeless, versatile jewelry that stands out. Whether you're dressing it up or keeping it casual, they have bold rings to leather bracelets. There's something for every single vibe. So go ahead and tap the link in the description below to explore the whole entire collection. They have such great pieces. There is something for definitely everyone. With that being said, we're going to jump into and switch gears back to our NFL boys. Such huge talks. Again, the whole entire draft was plastered all over, as I'm sure you saw, and it was just a little disrespectful to Shedeur. I will say 5th round 144 is, I'm sure you were like, what the hell is this about too? So, but let's just kind of switch gears. And so how is Shedeur in your mind kind of just fitting into this aspect? How is he just really just branching out and taking Cleveland under his wing, making it known in the community like he's going to be here and just be like secure as a position, would you say?
I mean, I feel like he's done a good job as far as adapting to the position that he's been placed in, because obviously falling to the 5th round, like you said, is not something that any of us expected. And so for him to, kind of be embarrassed almost, on the big stage is kind of tough, especially since it's not really a doing of his own. And so for him to, go in the community and embrace the city of Cleveland and see him starting to build some of those relationships, especially with some of the younger guys on that Cleveland team is very good. But, we've seen some things about, him not participating in first team reps on 11 versus 11, for the Browns. And so there's some things there that will be interesting. I know one of the big worries is, when a guy like Shedeur has been coached by Dion his whole entire life, is he coachable? Can he adapt to a new playbook that the Browns just installed? So I think, for the position that he's been placed in, he's doing the best that he can. But there's definitely, the slide happened for a reason. There are some things that are stacked up against him. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think, he's doing the best that he can.
Exactly. He has his room shouting him out too. He's people like Jerry Jeudy, Joe Flacco giving him so much love. But in just his competition room alone, we see so many names. Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, we have, oh my God, Dylan Gabriel, I'm drawing a blank, who just actually decided to sign his 4-year contract today. How does he stack up against their either like expert veteran craftsmanship in the NFL or just like a intro from product from Oregon too as well. So how does he stack up in this room, would you say?
I mean, I think the big thing is that, I mean, Shedeur obviously has the marketability, but I mean, even though his, people had question marks about his arm and things like that, at least as far as his power, we know that he's accurate. And as far as what we've seen from, OTAs and reports and practice and things like that, he's making some of the highlight throws on the day. And so, he may not be getting the reps, but I think that, when he's stacked up against Dillian Gabriel, who's been known for being kind of undersized, not necessarily having the physical attributes as some other quarterbacks, I think Shedeur has an edge there. And, Kenny Pickett has kind of struggled to find his footing in the NFL, coming out of Pittsburgh and going with the Steelers. And of course, Joe Flacco, he's been a great quarterback for a very, very long time now. And, established. That's probably working against him at some point, getting at this point in his career. So, it will be a dogfight, of course, but I think, Shedeur in this position has the physical attributes and just, the talent and the tools and especially the confidence, exactly. To thrive and, potentially get into that starter role by week 1 or, some of those early weeks in the NFL season.
Exactly. Unwavering confidence. Honestly, wonder where he gets that from for sure. But with that being said, switching gears, jumping over to Jacksonville, the Jaguars, newly married Travis Hunter back on the field for OTAs and then preparing for training camp to be underway. He sits as the last top 10 unsigned pick. That bag is going to be astronomically huge in the works for sure too as well. So what are your thoughts on him just being such a huge role in Jacksonville, and how does he fit in, and just how is he going to be such a weapon for Trevor Lawrence, would you say?
I think wherever he goes, it's the spotlight's going to follow him. I mean, Travis Hunter is he's that electric. His personality is just that energetic. Wherever he ended up, it was going to be huge. But ended up in Jacksonville, in Florida, being close to where he grew up, he's definitely, he has the love. And it'll be interesting to see where he lines up more, whether it's at receiver or cornerback. And you mentioned that contract. That's another interesting thing with him, potentially playing both these positions. I know that there were talks of structuring his contract around how he plays, how many reps he gets and snaps, things like that. So there's question marks. I think some people are looking at as negative, but for me, it's all fun. I'd rather see something new that we've never seen before. And with Travis, I feel like you can't go wrong. And if I had to pick, I think, he's probably a cornerback in my eyes, just with how skilled he is, and especially after seeing that viral interception, on social media the past few days.
The other days, too. I mean, he's making hits over and over again with his plays, just single reps that we've seen. It's insane. It truly is. But I agree with you, too, at the cornerback position, too. And I think even seeing, the astronomical plays he's had, in last season, too, with college, as I'm sure you've known, too, is just insane. So it's really cool in that aspect. But with that being said, too, we look into other players that have made their way to the NFL. Shout out to Jimmy Horn Jr., shout out LaJohntay Wester. But what are they adding to these teams, and are they underrated, under the radar in your eyes, too, as well?
Well, I'll start with Jimmy Horn Jr. just because I know he's been dealing with a hamstring injury, and that's kind of been a setback for him. We knew he dealt with injuries at Colorado, especially this past season. So it'll be, I think it'll be a lot harder for him to kind of find his footing with the Panthers in Carolina. But as far as LaJohntay Wester and in Baltimore, I think he's making a very great impression. I know that reports have said that he's been regarded pretty highly based on what he's been doing. And I think that, he'll probably be in a similar situation as far as trying to get on the field as Jimmy is. But, looking at the depth chart, even though the Ravens receiver room is pretty crowded, I think Wester has a better chance to beat out some of those guys, especially with some of the age and the injury issues and things like that. But whichever of the two, performs best, it's just awesome to see CU boys, this many CU guys in the NFL, especially just after, we're really only having Laviska Shenault, at the receiver position, Mason Crosby as a kicker, things like that. Exactly. Seeing this many is so crazy.
No, it definitely is eye-opening night and day as a native, too, as we feel for sure with the team, too, as well. But with that being said, what's next for the team coming up? We've talked present, we've talked past, but looking forward to the future. I know that they were ranked a little bit low in the Big 12 championship predictions at number 11, but where do you see them succeeding and pretty much getting in the win column, would you say? Number of win totals and all that kind of good stuff.
I mean, that's always tough when it comes to
football.
Loaded
question, I know what that is.
Especially college football. There's always surprises, but I think it'll be hard to beat last year. I think last year was pretty surprising. especially with the nature that some of the wins came in, and then at a certain point, some of the losses became surprised with how dominant the wins were. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this team take a slight step back and see them more in the 500 realm, around the 5-6 win range, and I don't see them being horrible. Obviously not 1-11 like they were my freshman year at CU, but I think they'll be not great, but probably somewhere in the middle of the pack as they're trying to find their footing. And especially if Julian Lewis wins that quarterback position, I think it'll be a lot about focusing on his development and making sure that when like Jordan Seaton is a junior and NFL ready next year and things like that, and you're trying to get these guys to NFL, that Julian Lewis is ready to show out and put himself on a pedestal to get to the next stage.
Exactly. Well, with that being said, guys, another great week, another amazing guest. Shout out Oliver Hayes for coming on the set today, making great insight for the team. And don't forget to go ahead and follow him on all his socials. Where can they find you on social media? So yeah, X or Twitter, whatever you call it, OCU Hayes. I'm also on Blue Sky under the same name, and you can follow me on Instagram at oliverhayes.2, and I'm also on YouTube at Oliver Hayes. Also on TikTok, I think. I'm trying to be everywhere, so just look at my name and you'll probably find me. You'll find him somewhere. With that being said, thank you so much again for being on the show. For having me. This has been the Denver Sports Betting segment in partnership with our guys over at Fan Day Nation, and we will catch you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.